Good morning.
What's that?
It's a present.
It's a present. Gatorade. You did not skim.
No, I did not.
These are like the 64.
There's a better price point for an ounce.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, there are two there, so we could each have one
Thank you.
to hydrate.
Gotta hydrate.
Well,
Wow, they're heavy. I'm just gonna sneak these on the ground.
I thought maybe we could have a chugging contest or something.
I am just gonna.
Sip,
Yeah.
or I can make a temple drinking game with Gatorade.
I'm gonna leave you in charge of that.
And every
feel
time
like-
somebody calls or walks in the door.
Oh yeah, great.
Right.
So what's up?
So it's funny. I'm still thinking about that conversation I had. Remember how I told you the other day how I broke my personal rule and I got into a personal conversation. I mean, not a personal, political conversation on Facebook.
Oh. And I was like, do not do this under any circumstance.
Yes, and I wish you had told me that before. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It was like really, as I said the other day, it sort of opened up my, you always have this thing like, well, right, electronic communications are not the same and we have different rules and we have to be mindful of that. And, I always knew that intellectually and always had been mindful of that. And it was just really interesting because it felt like we were getting away with things or thinking we can get away with saying things because it's electronic.
Right. Like you wouldn't have that conversation with that person in real life?
Well, you would, but it would be different because I think the guidelines or the rules are different, and that you had. So the thing I've been thinking about that was interesting is the timing issue.
What do you mean?
Like, we have a conversation and like we're having now, it's like back and forth.
Right.
Like, right? It's like that you don't just pick up on visual cues, like about facial expressions and whatnot, but you pick up on verbal cues and not just related to inflection or sarcasm or jokiness, that sort of thing, the things that we're trying to use emojis for these days. But just like the time though, like it's like you can respond immediately, or like when you're going back and forth posting on Facebook walls, you put something out there and then you wait, and it's like you don't know what the response is going to be,
right?
And you're just anticipating it, and meanwhile you're like continuing with the conversation in your mind,
right?
Anyway, I'm sure you know all this.
I mean,
I just feel like maybe I'm as a digital immigrant still learning the language, but it's just
a hard lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I also don't like to engage in political conversations on Facebook. It's just a rabbit hole. It's just like, ugh.
Well, that's the other piece of it. It's like, there's no end to it. So like, what's the conversations you're having face to face have a natural beginning and ending, and those types of conversations don't. I mean, it's an unnatural beginning, right? Because somebody's putting something out there.
Right.
When you're reacting to somebody's post, they're putting it out there. They're not necessarily asking for a response or anticipating what particular response, or even know who is going to respond.
Right.
And so then, you put out, so you're not necessarily entering into a conversation. And then when you go back and forth, there's no end to it. Like it's
I'm
like
gonna play devil's advocate a little bit here, because
obviously I'm worked up about it.
I feel like some people might say, oh, you're posting something online, you are expecting a response. You're like a thumbs up, or like those new different emotional responses. Like you could be like thumbs up, but it's really an angry face or whatever.
But now it's like, we're going on about like we need a dislike button. Now it's like, well, why did this person just give me a like and this person give me a heart?
Right. What does that mean?
More anxiety.
Yeah. So good. But like, when you post something online, you don't necessarily, that doesn't mean the same thing to everybody.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. It's like you can't anticipate. Like if you start a conversation with someone, you sort of know where it's going to go, or want to have an expectation or an inkling. But if you just put something out there and you don't know, you're not necessarily inviting people. You are inviting people in, but you're not. You're not inviting someone in personally. You're just inviting the universe, which is dangerous. And I took the bait, which was like not the best idea either. Because then I got sucked into something. It's just, we're just still figuring out this whole communication piece when it comes to like Facebook and whatnot. Because there can be rich conversations and real sharing of ideas.
Sure.
But
I mean, I feel like, yes, this particular instance is about communicating online and what that means. But I also feel like there could be clearer communications like face to face. Like when you share with someone, like if you have a bad day and you want to talk to somebody about it,
right.
Starting off the conversation by saying, I just need to vent. Like, I don't need you to come up with a solution. Can you just like be an ear?
Yeah.
And if you're clear about that, then the other person can experience that conversation in a way that's helpful and productive for both parties.
You're setting the ground rules, or the expectation.
Yeah, totally. Being clear about expectations. That's like a good place to start with a lot of things.
Yeah, and you're right, that's a good point, because that's not exclusive. That could happen on online communications. It's just about setting up, that's really good. Setting up expectations and not taking the bait.
Not taking the
That's
bait.
my rule. That's my lesson.
Yeah.
I need some Gatorade. Do we have any?
No, we're fresh out.
Oh.